Hi everyone, I'm so glad to have you stop by my channel today. It's Mari and I have another 12 by 12 scrapbooking layout. I'm going to be using the Office Hours collection from Pink Fresh Studio, and I really loved this paper. I think it's really cool, but I just wasn't exactly sure to do with it the way that it is. And so what I decided that I wanted to do was to cut out the circles. So I'm using my 2-inch punch to cut out the larger circles. And then I'll show you here, I'm using, I think maybe a 1.5-inch punch or something like that, or 1 3/4 to cut out some of the next size circles, and then a smaller circle punch yet to cut out the tiniest circles. And so I'm just using those 3 circle punches to cut out the different shapes to use on my layout. Now my idea was to use a white cardstock base, and I wanted to use those circle shapes that I have cut out here in kind of like that wavy line horizontally across the top of the layout, using all the different sizes of circles. And then to put my 3 photographs, which I have printed out in, I think they're 3 by 2 in black and white. And you can see there that I've just kind of coordinated the color palette today with the colors that are in that Office Hours paper that I showed you. So kind of the reds and the blues, the yellows, greens, and that kind of thing. Now I wanted to use these clocks in chronological order to show sort of like a time sequence, because the photographs are a sequence of photos in time as well. Now I really love this Hustle die cut as well. I thought it was super cool, and I want to use that as part of my title piece. And it says hustle, dream big, and work hard. So you can see I'm planning on mounting that white paper onto that blue behind it, and then that red pattern paper to frame it all in. So I think that blue paper is maybe ballet blue or something like that. It's a Stampin' Up! Cardstock. Now I also wanted to use these small alphas from Pink Fresh Studio for part of my title work. These are also from Office Hours. And I'm going to use this really cool distress stamp from, this one's called Elemental, and it's from Visible Image. And I really love this. And the reason why I love it so much for this particular layout is because Jordan in these photographs is ringing the Thesis gong. So he just finished his master's, and his master's is in applied science. And this is a really kind of like science-y stamp. And I just thought it was perfect. So I'm going to use some archival ink, which is waterproof, to stamp out my image. It also does a really great job of stamping crisply. So I just put my polymer stamp on that block, and I'm just stamping it out. I stamped it once. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of a mask, just a piece of plain cardstock down, because I don't want to go all the way to the edge. I want to go to about the same distance from the edges on the left side. So I just put that cardstock down just to kind of mask it off. Sorry, my head got in the way there. And I'm just going to stamp this out again. And that's where I'm going to put my photographs at the bottom there, so that it'll kind of be a bit of a background to my photos. And then I also wanted to do a little bit of inking over top of this. And so this is some Distress Oxide ink in Faded Jeans, which looks really nice with the blues in the Office Hours collection. So I just stamped it onto a piece of plastic, and I'm just using a brush from my craft space here just to splatter a little bit of the ink on there, and just some splatters. And then I'm also just using the packaging technique to put that ink down on top of that stamped image. And the great thing about the archival ink is, like I said, it's waterproof. It's not going to move. It's just going to be the perfect base for putting this ink over top. And that way you just, I find it's easier to stamp on a paper that doesn't have anything on it yet. And the waterproof ink just allows you to then just layer over top. So I like doing it in that order myself. It's just personal preference. So now I'm just going to add a little bit more of that watered down ink with my brush, just splattering and tapping a little bit of it down. And now you can see that this just provides a really nice mixed media distress base for where I'm going to put my photos. Now I'm going to mat each one of my photos on just a layer of that same cardstock that I've used to mat the white cardstock around or for the base of the layout. It's that same Stampin' Up! Cardstock. I think it's, like I said, ballet blue or something like that. And I have so much Stampin' Up! Cardstock in my stash from when I was a consultant. And it's wonderful because I can use it for matting, I can use it for card making and so on. It's perfect. So I'm just going to put a layer of foam adhesive on the backs of my photos and then stick that down to the cardstock, because then it just gives it a little bit of dimension, and layering is going to be a little bit easier with those photos with that little bit of space from that foam adhesive. Now I'm just kind of trying to decide how I want to place these photos on here. I knew that I didn't want to just put them in a horizontal line. I wanted to make them look a little bit more interesting than that. So I'm going to end up putting that middle one lower and then the two side ones higher, just so that you can really still see lots of that stamping that I did. Now what I'm going to do is start to place those circles across the top. They're not going to go in the same order. I'm not going to be able to use them the same way that I had originally put them down there, because I've sized the paper down, right? So now I've got less space horizontally from side to side. So I only end up using 2 of those clocks, which is fine. And like I said, I wanted to use them in chronological order. So the first one says 11:45 and the second one says 12:25 or something like that. And I just think that's neat. It just, like I said, it shows that time is moving. The story behind these photographs is that our son moved out to Ontario just a bit over 2 years ago with sort of a plan in mind of how he thought life was going to go. And he definitely was thrown some curveballs in that process, and things weren't exactly fair to Jordan. It was a little bit tough. And what I'm journaling about here, as I'm just showing you the layering that I'm going to do with some of the die cuts and using my ruler here to make sure everything's straight, he really persevered. He didn't have to. He could have come home when things got rocky and tough. He could have, just decided to come back and work. I mean, he's a really smart guy, and he has an excellent academic background and work background and so on. He could have just come back and worked and it all would have been good. But anyways, he stuck with it, which is great. And it just took a lot of guts and determination to do that. So that's really what I'm journaling about here today. So these little bits that I'm putting in here, the one on the right says recorded. So that green tab that I'm just sticking down there and putting it down with a little bit of foam adhesive. And then I'm going to kind of imitate that on each one of the photos. And the one on the left is going to say true story. And then the center one says take note. And they're all, of course, in the colors of the collection, which I love. And then I'm going to put a die cut on each of the 2 outside photos just to add a little bit of detail there. And then the journaling is going to go underneath the middle photo. So I wanted to add some symmetry to the layout by using those die cuts in that way. And of course, add some layering and interest. But the beautiful thing about this is that it's really simple. It didn't take me a ton of time to do this. It's just really basic, but there's enough detail to make it look interesting. Now that hustle piece I did pop up on some foam adhesive again, and you can see the title work that I did bouncing across the top, which says ring the thesis gong. And in the photos, Jordan is at the printing spot at the university where he's printing off his thesis, and they have this little spot where you can ring the gong. And I made him actually have them take photos, or he did a little video and then I screenshotted it so that I could document this. Now, really cute are, and really interestingly enough, some of these little circles are little Wi-Fi symbols, which is perfect because that has a lot to do with what his thesis is about. So I really like how this came together. I hope that I've explained it enough for you to see what I did here. I did do a little bit of stitching on my sewing machine as a border on the layout. And then I think I've explained everything else here that I've done. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it inspires you and gives you an idea of how to use that one pattern piece of paper from the Pink Fresh Office Hours collection. I think it's gorgeous. I love this collection. I think it's really neat. And it worked out perfectly for the layout that I wanted to do and document this story. Thanks so much everyone for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you as a new subscriber. And please leave me a comment. Let me know what you liked about this or you didn't like, what you would have done differently, or what you learned or what you thought was interesting. Thanks so much, guys. Have an amazing day, and I hope to see you back on my channel another time. Bye-bye.